come further analyses. And so these are sub-analyses. Some of them have been specified, some of them are not pre-specified, but in any case, they provide us with new insights. So this particular poster describes the response of patients, whether they're on Philip, we don't want to lose you.
Allowing them to see.
I see. Whether they're on sulphonylureas at baseline or not. So everything else I've already heard. Let me describe for you the differences in patients who are on sulphonylureas at baseline versus those that are not. When we look at the age, they're very similar. One thing to point out is the BMI is a little lower for those taking sulphonylureas, as you would expect. In some countries, people who are not overweight, they choose sulphonylureas first. Blood pressure is the same. EGFR actually, as a group, was a little higher, but when you look at the lower EGFRs, you see those taking sulphonylureas are a little lower. Let's now look at hemoglobin A1C. It's the same. Duration of diabetes is a little different. Namely, you see that those taking sulphonylureas have a shorter duration, that is the percent more than 10 years, and that's probably because this group is on insulin and the sulphonylurea has been discontinued. Otherwise, there aren't any major differences. Let's now look at the response to therapy, whether you're on sulphonylureas at baseline or not. And when you look at hemoglobin A1C, there really is no difference. As you saw from Silvio's presentation, it tends to come together, and 0.36, 0.48, 0.28, 0.38. So p-values are all significant and basically the same. When you look at changes in weight, again, this is not the introduction of sulphonylurea, but you're already at baseline sulphonylurea, and the change in weight is similarly the same whether you are on background sulphonylurea or not. Now, cardiovascular outcome and mortality is an important outcome because there's been a lot of debate about the risk of sulphonylurea with respect to cardiovascular disease. Are they good for your heart, bad for your heart? And potentially there could be some interaction based on whether you are on sulphonylurea at baseline or not. And these graphs are pretty clear. We demonstrate all patients, and then we demonstrate sulphonylurea yes or no, and you can see these are essentially superimposable. So there really is no difference as to your background sulphonylurea medication with respect to the cardiovascular outcomes. As far as adverse events, again, there really is no significant difference that's worth talking about. So in patients with type 2 diabetes and established cardiovascular disease, empagliflozin reduce the risk of cardiovascular outcomes and all-cause mortality, irrespective whether you're on sulphonylureas or not at baseline. A1C and weight were reduced similarly. Adverse events were consistent with the known effects of an SGLT2, and proportion of hypoglycemia and other adverse events were similar. Thank you.